Welcome to the Any Given Day podcast, your ultimate destination for all things college football.
I'm Hunter.
And I'm Zach.
And together, we'll be your hosts as we dive into the thrilling world of college football from the perspective of the fans.
From game previews to post-game analysis, we'll bring you the latest news, insights, and stories that make this sport so captivating.
Join us every Tuesday and Friday as we explore the traditions, pageantry, and unforgettable moments that define college football.
So whether you're a diehard fan or just getting into the game, get ready for a wild ride with the Any Given Day podcast. All right. Welcome back, everybody. We got a big day ahead of us.
Hey, everyone.
So, some big news broke today. Mel Tucker is being fired.
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, was it
when you
justified?
look at everything that happened, when you look at everything that happened, and you're seeing, it like I said, there are some questionable things that led to him being fired. And if it comes out that he did do them, then by all means, right call. But if it comes out that this person lied about it, not only does it set back victims coming forward quite a bit, it also it also proves that Michigan State just took the chance to get rid of him.
Right. I mean, obviously you don't want to take these accusations lightly, right? I mean, It's a real problem in the world, so you don't want to just say it's a lie straight out of the gate because we don't know. But it will be a shame because, I mean, it will have ruined a man's career pretty much just because she was mad at him if it isn't true. So,
and that's the big word, if it is true or if it isn't true. It's truly sad that the world is this kind of messed up one way or the other. I just it didn't help. It did not help that everything was going down the toilet on the field as well. You look at the record for the past few years, or last year, and his first year they were 2-5. It was 2020 COVID season though, so things got kind of messed up there in general. 2021, honestly, they went 11-2. Some would say that's mainly because their offense ran around Kenneth Walker. So, and then 2022, last year, I mean, they went 5-7, 2 games under 500. It was just a huge step back. At one point in 2021, they were nationally ranked. It's astounding how quick of a turnaround you can be on top of the world, all the way to the bottom of the ladder rung. It's astounding in college football, and that made it so much easier for Michigan State just to be like, hey, with this claim right here, we've got cause, and we're gonna let you go. They have, like, as far as I know, as of this moment, it's just they've initiated the process to start firing him. I don't think he's fully terminated just yet, but it's going to be pretty quickly.
Right. I mean, he's still got $79 million owed to him, so...
No, he doesn't.
Does he not?
No, because that's the reason why they're firing him right now.
If they didn't
they're firing him with cause. So
yes.
if he was just fired because he was doing a bad job on the field, that wouldn't be enough for cause.
Right,
but they're fired because of this sexual harassment. claim, as of this point, we are on no side on this. I think I speak for Bonner evenly on this. We are on no side of this at all. We are just
waiting for the facts to come out.
We're telling what we know.
Right.
So, and because this claim came up, they have cause. So that means they can fire him and they don't owe him a thing. It gets him out of his contract and they get a fresh start.
Right. I mean, if you look at his record so far, over the last 3 years, it's 20-14. So, I mean, not really worth and what, $80 million contract?
Basically.
So, I mean, if they can get out of that contract and start in, I mean, they jumped the trigger a little bit. They kind of jumped the gun after that 11-2 season.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of downhill since. So
they should have given the money to Kenneth Walker once he graduated.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. We'll keep watching and update as we hear more. But it's an unfortunate situation, but
tragic, really. It's just like we said earlier. You hate to see that. Kind of wish the world wasn't this way. So but it sucks. But it is what it is. I guess the next real question we've got is, well, not even real question, just I guess a thought I've got, and I was telling you about this, is just how topsy-turvy this season has been so far. Right?
Yes.
We're looking at one of the most so far we're just 3 weeks in. But it doesn't feel like there's a true number one. And I would go so far to say that this feels so close and so similar to the 2007 season, where it was just chaos in and out each week. I mean, it was insane. And to any younger listeners who are actually listening to us right now, if you weren't alive for the 2007 season, it was insanity. The new signee for ESPN, Pat McAfee, he was in college. That was that his second to last year when he was in college?
I believe so.
Over at West Virginia. And he missed a kick that would have sent West Virginia at the time, who was part of the Big East Football Conference, which is, I guess you could say, the closest. Well, not even. Would they have been considered a Power 5 conference back then? They had Maryland and Miami, I know.
Probably.
Back then. So, they were considered one of the smaller conferences. And it would have sent West Virginia to the national title game. Instead, he missed the kick, and they go on to beat Georgia in the Peach Bowl, or Chick-fil-A Bowl is what it was called back then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were this close, though, to being in the national championship. And that would have been electric to see Pat White, quarterback of the West Virginia Mountaineers at that time, in the national championship game.
Yeah, I mean, this year has been crazy so far. I mean, like you said, there's not really a clear number one team. Nobody's played perfect at all. There's not been a clear-cut number one team. I mean, there's been a lot of close games so far this year. I mean, it's going to be a crazy year. You hope somebody's going to grab it at some point, but then again, as a fan, you kind of live for seasons like these where it's just chaos, and you don't know
until your team loses.
But you live for these years where it's just chaos, and you don't know what's going to happen on any given Saturday. It's just it's massacres and chaos, and it's just fun. As a college football fan in general, it's fun to go into a season not knowing, okay, well, it's going to be these 4 teams in the playoffs this year.
It's truly, like you said, it's fun to watch. It's so chaotic, but you're seeing the best of college football, week in, week out. You know, like what, and we'll get into it in a bit more depth later, but like what happened with Florida State and Boston College. No one saw that happening. No one saw what happened with Alabama and USF happening. Like, it truly feels, like I said, like that 2017 or 2007 season where no team went undefeated. Every team had at least one loss. And I think that was the third time in college football history that happened. It was astounding because you don't see that happen that often. You typically have one team go undefeated throughout a season, and that year there was there was no undefeated team, but arguments could be made like Kansas, right?
Right.
They were the only BCS team, and that's how long back ago it was. BCS, the Bowl Championship Series, not the college football playoff that we have now. This was back when a computer determined the outcome of which two teams would play in the national championship, right? It was, and that was the second time in the Bowl Championship Series where no team finished the season undefeated. And Kansas, of all teams, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, was the only team from a BCS automatic qualifying conference to finish the entire season with one loss. Statistically speaking, wins and losses wise, they were the best team, but they did not qualify for the national championship because the computer said they weren't good enough.
It was just chaos. I'm excited for this year. Yeah, I mean, speaking of upset alert, I mean, like you said, Alabama and USF. Let's jump right into that. That had to be scary for Alabama fans. I mean, to go into the third quarter tied 3-3 against USF. I mean,
I kept thinking my phone and my phone alerts were behind.
Yeah,
I did not want to believe that. I was like, they can't. But you do look at the weather. I don't know if you saw the video or not of Saban walking off the field after the game.
Yeah,
where he's soaked, his hair's all over the place, and you just see the exhaustion on his face, and I'm like, that's probably how every Alabama fan feels right now.
Right. I mean, I know going into the game, we both thought that Alabama would absolutely demolish USF coming off that Texas game, and they did not. Which, granted, you could say, I mean, obviously there was a little bit of a quarterback controversy, this week with Tyler Buchner starting, and he looked awful again. The weather,
yes, but
I mean, I don't understand why you would think a guy that has 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions for his career was going to be the answer. At quarterback.
I think Tommy Rees had a say in that. Because you're hearing rumblings that Jalen Milroe might have had a silent suspension, and I'm sorry, Nick Saban does not seem the kind of guy to just be like, okay, we're not going to say you're suspended, but you're saying this game out because you've done this. He very much seems like the coach to own up to it and be like, hey, they screwed up. We're sitting them for this game. This is their punishment, because he doesn't want it to come back and bite him by the NCAA or sanctions like that for not being very open with it. So he seems like the kind of guy to go and do things by the book in that regard to make sure they don't get bit by the NCAA. I honestly believe that at this point, it was Tommy Rees going up to him and saying, hey, look, so far, none of the quarterbacks are really doing well. Give my guy Tyler a shot. I've been working with him since Notre Dame. He knows this playbook, and I think he can do well. And he did not do well.
No.
And I think what this shows to me is that Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator for Alabama, was not ready for this job. I believe he is in over his head. I think he's trying too hard to be perfect, first off. But in no way, shape, or regard was he ready for this job. I think Saban made a bad hire, which is going to happen every now and then, even to, let's be honest, the greatest college football coach of this era, if not of all time.
Yeah, he's got a case for all time. He's one of the greatest. He's one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, at the very least, top 2. So, I mean, I think he's got to kind of rein in Tommy Rees here and just kind of say, hey, we got to win football games, so we're gonna do what I want. I mean, obviously Tyler Buchner didn't do good. They put Ty Simpson in there, and he did better. Still not great. I mean, granted, the rain.
He can't feel pressure. He cannot feel pressure.
No,
you look at Jalen Milroe. The only pass he can really throw is the deep ball. You can't throw a deep ball every single pass attempt, unfortunately. He's a freak when it comes to keeping the ball on the run. You design more run calls for him, run plays for him, great. But one on the pass, he can't hit the intermediate throw at this point.
No.
And plus the line just cannot hold up long enough for him.
No.
And then Simpson, he can't feel pressure, like I said earlier. So he doesn't know when to move the pocket, when to kind of roll out, when to get rid of the ball. And then Buchner, he's just not it, man. I'm astounded by it. I really am. That I did not expect him to be that bad. And I think what you're really seeing right now is Nick Saban did not go out during the winter portal opening, the winter portion of the transfer portal being open, and get one of the quarterbacks. He could have very well gone in there and got Sam Hartman, but he believed in Jalen Milroe or Ty Simpson at that point in time. And then spring training hits, it gets done. Sam Hartman's already at Notre Dame, and you're struggling with both of those guys. So you bring in Tyler Buchner because he at least knows your offense coordinator. What this is it's going to be a bit of a struggle for the quarterbacks right now.
Yeah, I mean, for the first time in a couple years. Right, I mean, for the first time in a couple years, they don't have a Heisman quarterback back there. They don't have Bryce Young anymore. So, I mean, Jalen Milroe.
They don't have Mac Jones.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have that guy back there that can go win them a football game right now. So
we got so used to, everyone got so used to, like, Alabama always has a quarterback. They'll always be fine there. They're Alabama. But the guys they've recruited over the past bit, in Milroe, in Simpson, they're not hitting yet. For all we know, something might click midway through the season with one of them, or even with Buchner.
Right.
Right now, it has not clicked. That cost them a win against Texas. That almost caused an upset at South Florida. You don't see that happen to Nick Saban's Alabama.
No.
It's just, you don't see it.
No, not anymore. I mean, I believe Jalen Milroe has been named the starter for this next game against Ole Miss, so we'll see. He gets his second shot. He gets a chance to prove himself again, so...
If Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss beat Bama this week, I do not... For all we know, their shots at a national title are over. 2,
if they lose to Ole Miss, yes.
Yeah, they're already at a point they're already at their lowest point. This is the lowest rank they've been. The first time since 2015 that they've been ranked outside the top 10.
Yeah. So, I mean...
You don't see it. You
not
don't
anymore.
see it. They're always a top 3 team, if we're being honest. They might fall outside the top 5, but never out
of the top 10. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see how they do this week against Ole Miss. So
it's weird. It's so weird.
It is weird.
And I know I'm holding on to this a bit, but it's so weird. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie. As a fan, it's refreshing because we're getting other teams in there. Florida State's back up all of a sudden. It's been a while since they've been relevant, and seeing them come back, that's great.
Right. But I mean, them, Texas, it's definitely a strange top 4 right now with Georgia, Michigan, Texas, and Florida State. I mean, you haven't seen Texas and Florida State sniffing the top 5 or top 4 in a long time. So, So, going from one struggle win to possibly another, we'll get into that. But we get Georgia versus South Carolina. I mean,
USC Junior.
Yeah, I'll pose this question to you: was it a struggle win?
I don't know. If I'm being honest, maybe slightly. I don't... You know what? No, I'm not even going to say that. I don't think it was a struggle win so much as a kick to the butt. I think Georgia needed this. I think Georgia's players needed this. And I'll be honest, I think they might still need a players-only meeting where someone just goes in there like Sean Williams in 2012 did and said, y'all guys are soft. Get tough.
Right.
Because at this point, it's like you've got 4 guys returning on that offensive line who played last year. Granted, Amarius Mims is now out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, possibly longer, because of a high ankle strain, and he's having to have some surgery on his leg now. So he'll be out for a bit. But from what I've seen and what I've heard, Xavier Truss it looked pretty good playing right tackle. It's just they looked better in the second half. It seemed like something clicked in the second half. And I've got several friends, I've got several family members, Georgia fans. But they just they're off Mike Bobo already. I've got one family member who is quoted as saying that Bobo needs to be taken behind a shed and shot. I don't agree with that, first off. Like, I don't. In any regard, he said that in the first half of the first game this year. And if you're not willing to give your OC a chance, because look what happened in 2020 with this Georgia team. Todd Monken's first season with them. You're struggling at quarterback. You're going through multiple different quarterbacks. DeJuan Mathis starts the season. In comes Stetson Bennett and pulls out a win. He's your starter for basically the rest of the game, and they pull out the win. And he's your starter until he gets injured against Florida. From there, who else came in? Besides DeJuan, I don't think got a shot again. I think he got one more shot.
I think DeJuan came in versus Florida, but it was DeJuan and I don't even remember who else was on that team.
It wasn't back.
No, it wasn't
at that point, it was not back. He was sitting that first year, and everyone knew it. He was redshirting. I know JT Daniels did end up getting the start against Mississippi State. I think he came in late during Florida, if I remember correctly.
I think he came in late during Florida. But speaking of quarterbacks, I mean, if you didn't watch this game, right, if you just looked at the box score of this game, it does not do Spencer Rattler justice, okay? I mean, if you look at it, he was 22 for 42 for 256 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. You look at that and you think he Georgia just destroyed him. He was dotting up Georgia. I mean, he looked like the best quarterback in the SEC in that first half.
He really did. And then
the second half, Georgia held him, I want to say, like 4 completions, two or 4 completions in the second half.
Something like that. It was the tale of two halves, literally. They were making a lot. They were making a lot of play designs where it was easy dump off throws for him to get him in rhythm quick, early, and then he looked unstoppable during the first half. I have been noted as before this podcast, before anything, I did not think Rattler was a good QB. Ever since that Tennessee game last year between them and South Carolina, he has proved me wrong. And I think something clicked in that game. Like, I'm the best. I was one of the best prospects coming out of high school for a reason.
Right. I mean, he's been on another level since that game.
He really has. I think something like I said, something clicked. I don't know what it was, but the thing that did stop him in the second half was Georgia's defense. They forced 2 turnovers, and they only allowed him to get 35 rushing yards, which is a lot for a quarterback against Georgia's defense.
Right, which also led the team in rushing, which is also a big part in that game. South Carolina didn't really have an SEC caliber running back that could kind of come in there and take over a game. They really didn't have it. I mean, you look at Georgia. I mean, Daijun Edwards had 118 yards, 20 carries.
He was a spark for that Georgia offense. It felt like the running game finally clicked with him there.
Yeah, you get him back, and that Georgia running game exploded for the first time this year. So
offensive line actually finally started moving, and everyone is like I said, I've got family members who are anti-Bobo and anti-Beck out of nowhere, right? Now, granted, that year where JT got injured and Stetson first came in, they're like, why isn't Beck playing? Why isn't Beck playing? Stetson gave them the best chance to win. Right now, these same people are saying, why isn't Vandegrift playing? Vandegrift needs to play, or else we're going to lose. Or Stockton needs to play because we're going to lose if Beck stays in. Beck went 27 of 35 for 269 yards. No touchdowns, but he didn't throw any interceptions either. And I think something finally clicked with him in the second half as well. Because from what I understand from a certain film guy, they saw Kirby Smart go up to Carson going into halftime, and they're like, hey, he put his arm around him. No one knows what was said except for those two probably. But I would say that he probably told him, look, we believe in you for a reason. We have you as a starter for a reason. Go out there, trust yourself, because we trust you. And maybe at that point something clicked. We'll see against UAB. There's no telling. You're going to have a lot of starters sit, though. And another thing, I cannot stress this enough. We haven't been, I say we. They haven't been fully healthy this season so far.
Right.
Because you have not seen Ladd McConkey at all, which he's the deep threat guy. He's a guy who's going to hit a cornerback or a defensive back with a double move, run by him, and get the long, deep touchdown. Because he's going to be wide open.
Right.
That's who Ladd is. That's how they have him set up to be. And he's been out with back issues, and we don't know when he'll be back. I would say if he thinks he's even 70 to 75%, heck, maybe even 60 to 65%, they might have him out there for the Auburn game. I don't see him playing this week.
No, I believe Kirby announced at his press conference that he's out this week for sure. But
I think the one thing that did come from this game, though, is that Georgia showed some toughness, and they showed how resilient they were, and they showed that they are able to come back from a 2-score deficit, a double-digit deficit. They can come back from that. They've showed that they can. And I think some people, ourselves included, because I did call them USC Junior, but South Carolina has really stepped it up.
South Carolina looked good.
Shane Beamer, I was iffy on him at first. I wished him the best, but I had no clue if he was actually going to be the guy for the job, and he has so far proven to be a great fit over there.
Definitely. Getting back on the upset train here.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State versus South Alabama. I mean, demolished Oklahoma State. South Alabama demolished them 33-7.
How does that happen?
I don't know. I mean, you could make an argument that maybe Mike Gundy is fallen behind in the world of modern college football with the NIL and stuff like that. Maybe he's not playing into it much. Maybe he's not playing into it a whole lot. Maybe he's kind of he's got that old school mindset. He's got that old school mindset. That might actually
be it, because I think he's always been pretty innovative offensively. So, like, you're always seeing his quarterbacks go off sometimes for like couple 300 yards a game at least. Sometimes it feels like, and then some running backs will have almost 200 yards sometimes, depending on what they need to do. But their downfall has always been their defense, because they always played in the Big 12, where they have these very much Big 12 style shootout games. I'm not even sure if that's the Big 12 style anymore.
Not really.
Because you look at how Texas has been, and they've been pretty good about lighting certain teams up, and then keeping their scores down. I don't know what it is, and some will. I think the one thing that surprised me the most, though, was I didn't know his son was starting quarterback.
I mean,
I did not know
he didn't do great. I mean, only 64 yards passing. I mean,
yeah, but it's like I think South Alabama was just really ready for him. I don't know what else to say about
Oklahoma State really looked past him.
I don't really know what else to say about that game. I mean, just it's
South Alabama destroyed Oklahoma State. That's about all you can say about that game. They shocked
them. Like, it's a shock to the system almost. It's like, okay, maybe they get the upset win by like a field goal to a touchdown out of nowhere. Not 33-7 though.
No, I mean, that's Oklahoma State came into this game. Like, they came into this game as a 7-point favorite.
South Alabama?
And Oklahoma State was a 7-point favorite, and they only scored 7.
Jeez.
So,
I'm shocked about this one. This one just, like, to be fair, I saw it and I was like, no. But every bit of it is true, and I just...
Yeah, I remember telling you about this off camera, and you were at a loss for words.
I'm still at a loss for words. Look at me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's much more we can say about this other than what the heck.
I think
so we'll move on to a more exciting game. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's just one last. I think I really am in agreement on you with this about the NIL. I know I'm holding us back from going to the next segment. Yeah. But I think that's the only thing it could be. He's not getting good enough prospects right now, because I don't know. No, I mean, there when I was younger, I think Oklahoma State was like low key one of my favorite teams outside of the outside of my current team. And
right.
I always loved the black and orange jersey, more black than orange, which was perfect by me, don't want too much orange, but just the Cowboys and all that. And you see the stadium at night when it was rocking. You had the fans are just right on top of both sidelines. They've got those paddles on the wall to make it even louder than it needs to be, almost. And there was always something about it, and it feels like they've fallen off so bad.
They have. It's unfortunate. I mean, we'll see how it goes from here. We'll see how they finish off the season. But this is definitely a shock for it to be this bad of a loss.
Yeah.
Moving on to one of the games we previewed, Missouri versus K-State. I thought it was going to be close. And It was very close. It was a close back and forth game. I mean, Missouri outgained K-State with 356 yards to 270 through the air. I mean, Missouri just threw it all over the yard, and
they
K-State really couldn't stop it.
I mean, K-State was not prepped for it. I'm surprised Mizzou allowed so much yardage, but I that's a testament to K-State's players, and maybe a testament to, I don't know, because you looked at Mizzou's defensive alignment, and like we said in the last episode, they had 9 returning starters that were all juniors. They've been playing together for a while. They've been playing together since they were freshmen. A lot of them have been starters since they were freshmen. But it feels like they haven't really come to play just yet. In a way, I guess. Right. Maybe they haven't gelled. But that...
Probably not.
Who knows?
Ultimately, the game came down to a really long field goal.
Really long.
It was a 56-yarder, and then for some reason, I don't know if Drinkowitz just wasn't watching the clock or what happened.
That's what it was. I don't think he was watching the clock.
You get to delay a game on a game with a chance to kick a 56-yarder to win the game and knock it back to 61 yards, which I believe is the longest field goal in Missouri history.
SEC history.
SEC history.
SEC history.
He nails it. Straight down the middle.
Yeah.
Luckily, they got a guy that's been there for a while. But
yeah, Mavis.
But what a kick in the gut to your kicker to give him a 56-yarder, and then you aren't paying attention and knock it back to 61 yards. Yeah, luckily their kicker sent it right down the middle, or this is going to overtime. There's 3 seconds left in the game, I believe, whenever they went to kick the field goal. So, if he misses this, it's going to overtime, and who knows what happens. But Missouri pulls it out. They get the big win, knock off number 15. So
yeah, upset. Once again, another one.
Once again, upset.
Going from one upset. USF, going back real quick, if USF had pulled the upset, just there's against Alabama. Oh my gosh,
there'd been 3 big upsets, and South Carolina almost upsets Georgia. If you just take the first half, there'd been 4 upsets in 1 week.
Yeah, it's been insane. USF had a lead on them at one point.
Yeah, 3-0. Yeah, early in the first quarter, Alabama didn't score in the first quarter. So,
but Alabama's defense did step up. Back on track.
Back on track. Going to another big upset. Near the upsets, Ohio, not Ohio State. The University of Ohio.
Wildcats or
Bobcats? Iowa State. Bobcats. They beat Iowa State 10-7. Not that Iowa State's a great team, but they were favored in this game.
They've had flashes over the years where they should have been a great team, but then them being in the Big 12 they Big 12 themselves.
Yeah, the Big 12 has lost quite a few games this week.
Yeah, K-State?
Cincinnati loses, K-State loses, Iowa State loses. I mean,
Iowa State was
Big
not
12
ready
didn't
for
have a great
Maction
week.
Saturday night or Saturday when it
No.
happened. They were not ready for the Maction at all.
I mean, their quarterback had 2 interceptions. I mean, turnovers will kill you.
Always.
If you ask any college football head coach, turnovers is what kills you. And they had 2, and Ohio had none. So, obviously, Ohio's defense won that game for them. Those turnovers were key. They pull off the upset. The defense holds out. And they beat Iowa State. I mean, again, the year of the upset. It's been crazy this year so far.
I just want, before we go into our next one, I would just like to say, for those of you who are watching the video, if you notice, right about here, there's this little thing called first place next to my name. That's because during the predictions, we deferred on 3 of them. One of these was LSU versus Mississippi State. The others were North Carolina and Minnesota, which I was wrong about. I openly admit that. And the other one was Florida versus Tennessee. And I would just like to point out, I am in first place on our predictions right now.
Yeah, I mean,
because someone thought Mississippi State was going to pull the upset.
Listen, it was at Mississippi State. I had hope in Mississippi State, and
if you need cowbells,
Will Rogers looked to
influence your crowd and how amped they are. And I've got a Mississippi State fan as one of my buddies, as one of my friends that I've known since we were little. We were on our first tackle football team together. Love you, Thomas. Love you, but artificial crowd noise.
Mississippi State looked awful.
No.
I mean, Will Rogers looked lost out there, just missing wide open receivers. Mississippi State's defense couldn't stop a freaking snail. I mean, Malik Neighbors had 13 catches for 239 yards. And it was the same route. The 2 touchdowns he scored was on the same go route against the same safety.
Look,
make adjustments.
I don't know why any defensive coordinator would willingly put a 3-3-5, a 3-3 stack with 5 defensive backs as your main defense in this day and age. It does not work. And that is coming from someone who ran a 3-3 stack in high school.
I mean, it works against an air raid team. I mean, it works against air raid teams because then they have to, you're stopping the pass, but LSU is not an air raid team.
No, they're not.
They have Jaden freaking Daniels at quarterback who can run.
Very much so. Very much so. Very athletic. Great quarterback.
I mean 30 for 34, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns. He just threw all over them. In a defense that's supposed to stop the throw. It's a defense that's supposed to stop the throw, and LSU just demolished them. I was wrong. LSU dominated the game. I'm an idiot. I am an idiot.
If it makes you feel any better, I was an idiot for picking Minnesota. It will never happen
again.
I was an idiot for picking Minnesota, if it makes you feel any better.
Now, granted, I was wrong in the fact that I thought the running game would be the reason North Carolina won, because it was not. Okay, there's only 105 rushing yards for North Carolina, which is rookie numbers for North Carolina. But Drake May showed out. And
he's one of the top 2 quarterbacks in this draft.
Yeah, it helped his Heisman campaign, really. 29 of 40 for 414 yards. Granted, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So not a great split there, but still, 414 yards. To win 31-13 against a good Minnesota team. Granted, at home, but, it was at North Carolina, but Drake May threw all over them. Not how I thought the game would go, but I'm glad they won.
I think the game would have been more interesting if it was at Minnesota later on in the year. Maybe around November.
In the cold, maybe a little bit of
snow.
Yeah. Maybe it plays out different.
Would have really seen how Drake May reacts in adverse conditions. That's just more of a I would have liked to seen it. but
right,
obviously schedule was already made. They've had the schedule down for a bit, so is what it is. North Carolina went in, they got the win. LSU went in and just mollywopped. Just, yeah. I mean, some would even call that a violation of the Geneva Convention.
It was
with what happened.
Awful.
It was rough.
It was absolutely awful. Yeah, I mean, but Florida State,
North Carolina versus Minnesota, like you said, it was bad.
Right. I mean, Florida State thought they were going to go into Boston College and blow them out, and
people need to quit overlooking Boston College on the Red Ribbon Week.
They do it every year. They do it every
year on that Red Ribbon Week, where they are honoring the I think it's a former player who gave his life during 9/11 to make sure to help save people. Every year when they honor him, they always come to play.
Right.
And I guess it's just because as Americans, when you are given the opportunity to represent someone who passed away during 9/11 because they were doing something heroic, it just like right now I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it.
It's inspiring, right?
It's very inspiring because that's someone who went and made such a selfless decision.
Right.
Just to help someone else. Right. So people need to quit overlooking Boston College on that week.
Yes,
on that day.
I mean, Boston College never gave up during this game. So, I mean...
Oh, no.
Florida State thought they had it won, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess Florida State thought they had it won and started playing not to lose and not playing to win. And gave up a 20-point lead.
They blew a 20.1-point lead, which is just astounding. It shows that they've got... I don't know if it shows that Norvell's more conservative when he has a big enough lead, which he doesn't seem like the guy to be that way, but at the same time, maybe.
Right.
Or maybe it's just the defense kind of got lackadaisical because, it's Boston College, so...
Right. I mean, Boston College's quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, 20 for 33, 305 yards, also led the team in rushing with 16 carries for 95 yards and another touchdown. I mean...
Might be the greatest quarterback out of there since Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I was fixing to say, he never gave up on his team. So,
no, never. He went out there.
I mean,
he showed what it meant.
Boston College gave it. Yeah, I mean, Boston College gave it a run.
They gave them their best shot.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they were in it with a chance to win it with a minute left in the game. I mean, with Florida State coming in as a 25.5-point favorite, heck of a game by Boston College.
Oh yeah,
we'll see if they can hang on and continue.
You're seeing. Sorry for cutting you off there. That's another thing you're seeing. It's like all these odds that Vegas has. It's like they've meant nothing. Anyways, you still there? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, sorry. I thought something was acting up with my laptop.
No, you're good. Yeah, I mean, it was a good game. Moving on to another pick that we disagreed on.
Yep.
Now, I thought Tennessee being Tennessee, I thought last year it was the offense. It is now clear to me that it was Hendon Hooker.
Very much
Hendon Hooker was the offense last year. It was not Josh Heupel. It was Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt. That is it. All right. That was the offense. It was not this magical offense that Josh Heupel is some wizard. Okay, it's clear to me now. The big question is,
if you can stop your run with a light box, you can stop this offense.
Yeah, and their defense wasn't great either. Year. Yeah, I mean, the question is Tennessee bad, or is Florida better than we thought? Because I went into this game thinking Florida was one of the worst teams in college football, and they did not play like it.
I would just like to say that in the preview, I very much said there was a reason why Mertz was a starter, because Billy Napier saw flashes of something, and I saw a bit of the flashes against Utah early in the game before Florida shot themselves in the foot with flipping stupid penalties. They'll never live that down.
No.
But
which, I mean, the fact that they won this game as big as they did, Graham Mertz only had 166 yards passing. I mean, it was the run game. I mean,
between Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Etienne, 23 rushes for 172 yards.
Oh, it's insane. He's just as electric as his brother almost. And when you pair him up with another running back like Montrell Johnson, it's actually really, really cool to watch in a way. It makes them dangerous because they've got a fresh set of legs. So Mertz doesn't really need to throw as much.
Right. I mean, which Tennessee's offense looked very predictable as it did last year. I mean, against Georgia, Georgia proved that you can stop the run with that light box. Their offense becomes very predictable. It's spread you out, and it's quick passes, and if you can stop that, you're fine. So, I mean, I think
put brackets on them.
Florida's better than we thought. And Tennessee's worse than we thought. I think it's a combination of the two.
I don't even know if it's necessarily as much Tennessee as it is Joe Milton. And
Joe Milton's not the answer.
There's a reason why he went up to Michigan. He lost the starting job there. He transfers to Tennessee, named the starter, and then he loses the starting job to Hendon Hooker. There's a reason why all that happened. He's lost the starting job twice, and I think if he doesn't show something over the next week or two, he very much could lose it again to Nico Iamaleava, I think is his name.
How you pronounce it. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah,
I think he very much could lose the job to him again.
Right. I mean, which this game for Florida is the 10th straight victory at home against Tennessee. I mean, it's been 20 years since Tennessee has beat Florida in the Swamp. So I thought this year was the chance, and Tennessee
blew it.
Didn't show up. Tennessee just didn't show up for this game.
I mean, the only thing they really showed up for was a fight at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, just that's going to be a meme for a while where the two players are squaring up. That should always. Hilarious.
Yeah. Let's move on to the big game of the week. Really.
Yeah. Colorado.
I know we both thought Colorado was going to destroy Colorado State, and
we were wrong.
And it was. Honestly, I know a lot of people are saying Colorado State was real dirty. It was a dirty game from both sides.
Yeah,
both teams were giving cheap shots and fighting, and
it got stupid. It got stupid. Like, stupid penalties, right?
Right.
And it's like, okay, yeah, you could very much see where Colorado State, some of their players had some late hits, but it got chippy on both sides. Let's be very clear with that. Dion. And I will say this: I also think Colorado State proved a lot of people wrong because they were 23.5-point dogs, and I think Colorado proved a lot of people wrong. And I looked at this game and I was like, okay, they've got to go into Oregon, into Autzen Stadium next week. After that, they've got USC.
It's going to be a tough next 2 weeks.
At least one, if not both of those games.
Yeah. Colorado's good, but I don't think they're national championship contenders.
Not yet.
They're not even playoff contenders. Definitely not Pac-12 contenders right now. I think Oregon, USC are both better.
Or Big 12 contenders. Maybe Big 12 contenders.
Maybe Big 12 contenders, because Texas and Oklahoma will be leaving, and there's not really anybody to take that. But
well, no, they're moving to the Big 12 next year.
That's what I'm saying. Texas and Oklahoma are leaving for the SEC, so there's not really anybody to take that top spot. So maybe Colorado can come in there. Yeah, so I mean, obviously it was a big game. Big news coming out. Travis Hunter going to be out for the next couple of weeks with that liver laceration. I mean, I've watched the play.
Yeah.
It was quite dirty.
It was a late hit. But
granted, we do not condone any threats, anything like that. It's uncalled for.
It was stupid, and it was just
These are
a
kids.
Stupid play. It was a
kids, man.
Stupid moment by the Blackburn kid. However, we also don't condone people sending death threats to him or his family, like what has been happening.
Right.
That's uncalled for. And I want to be very clear when I say this. For all we know, I'm not saying that it wasn't his hit that ruptured or lacerated his liver, but for all we know, that could have actually been it could have been there already, and we're just looking at it as not bad. It could have already been there, and that just was the final hit that made it. It could have happened a few hits before that. It could have happened right in the moment. Or, for all we know, it could have happened a few hits before, and he just toughed it through, and that was the final blow that was like, okay, no, I can't play through this anymore. What's wrong with me?
I mean, obviously, prayers up for Travis Hunter. Hopefully he gets better, gets healed up.
Great athlete. Great kid.
Athlete.
Game changer.
It's been awesome to see him do what he's done over these last couple of games. So you hate for a player of that caliber to be out for the next couple of weeks, but hopefully he gets better.
That definitely does hurt their chances against Oregon and USC. Let's be very honest with it. That's their biggest playmaker. Now, granted, Shedeur showed a lot of moxie at the end of this game to force the overtime. He had to drive 98 yards without Travis Hunter. And the Michael Harrison kid, I don't know if it's scheming that's getting him open or pure ability of his that's getting him open, but it seemed like he was getting a catch every single play almost. Like they found a way to get the ball to him. He was getting first downs and touchdowns. He was unstoppable once they hit overtime.
Right. I mean, and like you said, Shedeur Sanders, 38 for 47, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. Do you think he's got a realistic chance at the Heisman this year over Caleb Williams?
I would say yes. Now,
I think he'll be in New York.
I definitely think he'll be in New York. I think what hurts Caleb Williams is it's so tough to get the second Heisman. There's only been one person to do it. Right? And so it's like you don't see it. You really don't see it happen. So, and I think that's mainly because of voter fatigue or voter exhaustion, however you want to call it. They're like, well, this guy already won it last year, and this guy's really stood out this year, so we'll give it to him.
Right. Even if Caleb Williams has the best stats, even if Caleb Williams is the best player in college football this year, there's a good shot that Drake May or Shedeur Sanders or somebody else
if they're close
gets
enough.
that. If they're close enough. If it's, miles better.
Oh, yeah.
Caleb Williams is winning a second one. But if it's close,
Caleb
I would not be surprised.
5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and no interceptions. I don't think I think he wins it hands down, but it's so hard to do that.
Right.
Because for every returning Heisman finalist, any team that they play will be gunning for him. We want to shut this guy down. He was the best in the nation last year.
Yeah, he was.
So
it'll be interesting to see how he does against Oregon and USC. USC's defense has looked good. Oregon's defense is going to be good with Dan Lanning as the head coach. So it'll be interesting to see how he does these next 2 weeks.
I do want. I think Deion is a really good head coach. Okay, I do believe that. I think everyone overreacting to that first win against TCU and automatically saying they were national title contenders out of nowhere, I think they were overhyped. By no means of any stretch are they national contenders this year. I do not see them being that way.
No.
They were 1-11 last year. They had 80 people come in through the transfer portal, which meant they had almost that many, if not that many, leave through the transfer portal. They had a complete overhaul. It's these guys' first year in this system, besides Shedeur, Shiloh, both of the Sanders brothers and Travis Hunter, and whatever other Jackson State player followed him from Colorado.
Right.
Anyone else who's coming from a different system, this is their first year in the system. So it's not going to be perfect immediately. But I think you've got a great chance to build on this. Truly, I do. I think if given a shot, he could turn Colorado around. But at the same time, maybe once Travis Hunter leaves, because he's the youngest of the three guys that Deion's really attached to, once he heads for the NFL, I think you could see an argument for another team that's underperforming, but let's say that was the only win that Florida really pulls out this year, and Billy Napier gets fired this year, or whenever both of Deion's kids and Travis leaves. I think if that were to happen, and Florida were to come up to Deion with enough money, why would he turn down that?
No, he wouldn't.
I mean, if you get a chance to play or coach in the SEC, because for the longest time that has been considered the top conference. Maybe not so much this year, by the way. Maybe not. We don't know yet. SEC's lost a lot of out-of-conference games. Surprisingly a lot. But we don't know how things will go.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, we talked about this a little bit earlier. We got our head-to-head records here. Obviously, you're in first place right now.
Number 1, baby.
9 wins, 1 loss. I'm at 8-2. We'll keep tally by the end of the year. We'll have a punishment for whoever's in last place. Don't know what it is yet, but we'll figure it out. So that's exciting. It's going to be a hard-fought battle all year. I'm going to win.
Sure.
So it's going to be okay.
Sure you are.
Couple big games we're going to be talking about later this week. Got FSU versus Clemson. That'll be a big one. Can FSU finally take down Clemson? Can they take over the top spot in the ACC?
Or will the old guard prevail?
Right. I mean, that's going to be a tight one. Got Colorado versus Oregon. We talked about a little bit already, but
Dan Lanning's already fired some shots at Deion in Colorado. Right. Not as personal as talking about Deion's mama, but what have they won for this conference, right?
Right.
So what I think is what he said. So yes. He's fired his own shots, but
right.
As long as he can back it up, he's perfectly allowed to do that.
Right. Get UCLA versus Utah.
They're both matchup.
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see how that goes. The big one I'm excited about: Oregon State versus Washington State, the 2 remaining Pac-2 teams. Tupac.
I thought we agreed on Tupac. But okay.
Tupac. The 2 remaining Tupac teams left. We'll see who's better right now this week.
Neither one from California.
Neither one.
They don't have any of the California love.
No. Big game this week.
I think that will be Oregon State's first test, though.
Yes, it'll be a big game for both of them. Probably the biggest game this week: Ohio State versus Notre Dame in South Bend.
That's going to be interesting. It really will be. I just Sam Hartman has made that Notre Dame offense look so different.
Yes, I mean it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
We got Bama versus Ole Miss.
If Lane Kiffin beats Nick Saban, first off,
the sky might fall.
All eyes will be on Lane Kiffin's Twitter.
Yes, I mean the sky might fall down if Lane Kiffin beats Nick Saban. So
get your popcorn ready, people.
We'll see how that goes.
That's gonna be fun to watch. Let's be honest.
Be a fun game to watch. All right, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Any Given Day podcast.
We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of college football. Remember, in this game, anything can happen on any given day.
Don't forget to subscribe and join us Friday for more analysis, predictions, and stories from the game we all love.
Until then, keep the spirit of the game alive, and we'll catch you on the next play. Thanks for tuning in to the Any Given Day podcast. Audio Jungle.